Welcome back, everybody. Well, we got a mess going on here today. Welcome back. Hope everyone is doing well. Well, to the untrained eye, you might not realize how much good is going on here. And to the trained eye, you're probably thinking, what kind of mess this guy got going on? And you'd be right on both sides. It is definitely deep into the wiring day. Things are happening. Things are hopefully going to happen anyway, without any smoke coming out of the wires. But it is time to try to get this ignition system working off the original wiring harness. So we got some new items, and we got some new things hooked up. And again, all basically temporary. This is all temporary until this thing is running and running well on the stand, and then we'll worry about the actual wiring harness. I have a feeling that a lot of this I'm going to make new. It's not really going where I want it to go for this build. This is the way it is. It came off this way, and it's kind of the way it lines up going back onto the engine. I don't like it. I want it more tucked away, a little cleaner looking. But let's address and go over where we're at this moment. So things on the engine are semi-permanent now for running. We have, of course, temperature sender up here for the coolant. Distributor is probably where it's going to go. Plug wires are all in. Negative wire is over onto the coil. We have the positive wire to the coil coming out of the harness. And we follow that up. We are now wired into the alternator. Took me a little bit to figure this alternator out. New alternator I got has 2 field attachments, 2 field hookups. The original had 1 field, 1 ground. Got to do a little research, a little learning, and learned about negative field. So we are hooked up correctly. Just some temporary jumper wires here because I didn't want to cut the main harness yet, just to make sure I know what's going on. And then we're back here to the dummy light on the dash, which would be the oil sensor. Then down here to our transmission switch, which is the neutral safety switch or the ground. This is the actual ground for the starter solenoid in this whole system. So I've gone back through the complete harness with my meter, checking everything from engine down to starter solenoid, which I have. It is right here. We got a new one. Got it all wired up together where it should be, hopefully. And I've also put together my ignition switch, which just had to put the tumbler into the electronic part. Got it on there, and now I've been tracing my wires to make sure everything is good so far, and I got good continuity going from my ignition all the way through the harness, both sides of the harness. This would be my bulkhead fitting here that goes through the firewall. Continue on to my solenoid, to my voltage regulator, and then of course up to the solenoid for the starter and the engine itself. Now the only thing left on this harness that I never really finished, you can see all the green tags, a long time ago I've gone through this, is the actual fuse box. Now all connections on the inside are good. The other side though, where the glass fuses go, it's kind of rusty and corroded. I don't know if it's any good. It wouldn't hurt just to throw a set of glass fuses in there and clean it up. But what I have at the moment here is, because I'm only looking to turn this thing over and get it running for the time being, is I got a 1/4-inch bolt put in my ignition side of my fuse, so it's good for at least 200 amps, at least. And then, of course, I don't have the dash in here, so I have to jump the amperage meter. That is the connection there that completes the circuit to see what's being pulled through there for charging and whatnot. So I got that together. Of course, ignition switches in. And then my actual starter relay. So we got the main power here. And then, of course, we have the main power on this side, which actually feeds the entire dash harness itself and all the way to the back of the car. We have our field, or sorry, our, what do you call it? Not the field. Yes, field positive, sorry. Field positive to alternator coming in. We also have our solenoid coming in. This here is the starter relay wire for when I turn ignition. And then, of course, we have our neutral or our ground, which is the neutral safety switch. That's what grounds this thing and turns it on and off to make sure that when we do go to start it, the car is always in neutral. So I'm pretty much ready to go here to crank it over. I'm going to hook it up here in a bit. Look for some hot wires. Get a good smell that air. See if we smell that smoke coming out. Going with my jumper cables because I'm going to need multiple grounds here. I need to make a fake chassis ground. Then of course where everything else is hanging, I have an alternator ground, voltage regulator ground that I got to hang off the side here. This will be another cable. Then the other end, I have to do the ground for the actual chassis harness that goes into the dash because I don't have the dash to do the actual ground, which is to the body. There's a secondary one here. I could probably get away with it for just the testing purposes as well. I don't have any other fuses in the box, so I'm not worried about any of the wires being live. They all terminate here. I've gone through this harness. There's no broken spots, so it should be good. So I'm going to hook up a few more grounds, clean off a positive connection. I'll throw some power to this harness and see what happens. All right, everything seems to be checking out and looking good. No shorts. There's good continuity between everything, and everything is transferring well. Even though this plug looks a little bad, we'll have to address this. I'm going to try to clean it up some more, but this, unfortunately, might be a replacement at some point. But I think everything is good going through. Good continuity between ignition side, dash side, into the engine. Now, between my voltage regulator and my starter solenoid, they're so close together. I just got a piece of wood kind of wedged in between them as my isolator just to keep them separate. My alternator ground and my voltage regulator ground is together. They'll run the same. Then I run a chassis ground here, which will take care of my neutral safety switch, and also the ground on the alternator on the other side. So that should be everything for negative. Yes, it's red. I'm using black and red for my grounds here, so everything is fine. As for my key switch, is not on. So there should be no draw on this thing at all. Okay, no spark. We're good there. I'm just going to give this a second here, a little visual. Make sure everything's good. Nothing's getting warm. No smoke. I think everything's looking good. I guess the next step is to energize it. This will be a key on position. Keys on. No smells, nothing burned anyway, that's good. So, you should be in neutral. So let's see what happens here. Oh yeah. Yeah, baby. We are working. We are working. All right, so now we know we got crankage going on with the key switch. So I'm down in here to the meter of the metering of the coil. Now the coil's brand new, so it should be no issue. But before I beat my head against the wall, we might as well know where we're going here. So I got her on my ohms. We're just going right across the field here. 1.5, 1.7, that's perfect. No issues there at all. It's exactly where we want to be. Now we're going to check both sides of the coil, in and out. My meter is self-regulating, so I don't have to change the different ohm settings. So if we go inside here, we should be close to, yeah, there we go. I was going to say close to 12, but we're at 11.04, which is perfect. Go to the other side, 11.05. If we check these together, we are 0. Coil's brand new, so it should be perfect. This is where it should be, but you never know. Coils could be bad out of the box. So here we are. Now, I need to double check to make sure I actually have power going to the coil with ignition on. So I'll go switch that ignition on and see what we got. All right, ignition is on. So we want to get into our voltage here for DC volts. We'll ground, use a ground here on the head. Now remember, I am running a ceramic ballast regulator on here as well too. So this should be somewhere between 7 and 8 volts, somewhere near there. 6.78, that's perfect. We should be running almost nothing on the other side. That's jumped down to milliamps, so we're good. We're not passing through anything or shorting out. 6.74, 73. Now, here's the big test. If I can leave this on here. Go turn the ignition off, make sure it actually works. Then we can shut this thing down when it starts. Ignition off, and we are off. Bonus. Perfect. That's working. Now, are we getting spark to the distributor? Now, of course, there is a bunch of ways I could do this. I could double check the ground inside the distributor. I can make sure I got power going into the main wire in the middle. And then I could check my wires themselves to make sure they're good. Or I just cut out all the middleman. We're going to hook up the coil here. Pull spark plug number 1 because it's close to the ignition switch that I can reach. Put a plug in there, crank it over. See if we got some spark going on. Like I said, we're pulling out number 1 for no reason other than the fact that it's close to my ignition that I can grab here. We're going to pull the plug out. Get that in there. See if I can ground it to the side of the engine here. Yeah, I think that'll work. And we are going to get you guys in on a really tight shot here to make sure you can see what's going on. There we go. We'll get you in tight here. That spark plug number 1. Let's crank it over and see if we got some spark going to these plugs. There we go. There we go. We got good healthy spark. That is awesome spark, and I just oops, I just sucked my rag right into the intake that I had just covered over there. So it sucked it all the way in there. That's awesome. Got spark to the plugs. Well, that is pretty darn awesome, I have to say. I now have, theoretically, a working engine. All I need is a carburetor. Hopefully, let me get something sticky on me. Hopefully, I got one coming soon. It's going to be not exactly what I wanted, but still a lot more than what I need for this engine. Price-wise is definitely a factor in it. Still sticking with a good name. I'm sticking what Holley backs, you know, not straight Holley brand. I am going with a Brawler series, but it is definitely, that's backed by Holley, backed by their warranty, and backed by all their guys that are helping me out. Talking to Steve there from Holley on email, and he was a great help. Even though, you know, they don't really supply, Holley doesn't supply an intake for the setup that I want. So I talked to him about this. I originally talked to him about this Edelbrock intake, and that's a perfect match. So that's all I really need to know. But there's a lot of cleaning up to do here. I know my wires work. That's good. Now, they're not really going where I want them to go. They're kind of a mess. The way they were on the car when I took it apart, they're just thrown over everything. I think I'm going to completely redo all this harness right down to this point right here. I think I'm going to get a weather pack or a Deutsch connector, and I'm going to cut everything back into this point here. Basically everything that goes on the engine that you're going to see under the hood. All this will be tucked down low under the side, going back into the firewall. That's where this goes here. And then, of course, once we get down to this point, we're now into, oh, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wires here. There's another 8 or 6 going up to the engine area. I don't want to get into too much of that. The wiring is working good. I want to leave it. But I think I might get, like I said, a weather pack or a Deutsch connector. Somewhere's down low here in this area where it's going to be tucked away. So once I bring it down, I'll make little brackets for either fit onto the block itself or the heads or on the transmission bolts. And then I'll tuck it all in nice and have everything up here nice and tidy. And then I can just actually just quick disconnect that. Just unhook it. And I can put this harness aside for now while I'm getting this engine stuffed in the 64. There's not a lot of stuff banging around, hanging around, getting hung up. But that is going to be a wrap on today's video. She is ready to go. She is ready to run. Carburetor. Got to get that carburetor here. Now, since a few seconds ago, it's been a little bit, got some wheels. I welded some wheels to the stand. And now I can at least move this thing around because there's lots of epic stuff coming. For now, we got to turn our attention to the rear end of this car. So we have the engine ready to go, almost. Need a carburetor. Been working on a dry shaft. Got that trunnion boot coming. Should be here anytime. And then it's on to the rear diff, rear axles, leaf springs, the whole back end of the car. Got to get that ready to go. But anyway, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the new subscribers. Love y'all. Catch you again later.